Our next speaker is Roland Warren. Roland Warren was appointed as CareNet CEO in October 2012. With 1,180 affiliated pregnancy resource centers, CareNet is the nation's largest network of centers providing a Christ-centered and compassionate alternative to abortion. I know CareNet trained me when I was a crisis pregnancy counselor, and I really appreciate all that they do. They do a great job. And prior to his tenure at CareNet, Roland served as president of National Fatherhood Initiative, where he was dedicated to the mission of improving the well-being of children by increasing the proportion of children that are raised with involved, responsible, and committed fathers. Under Roland's direction, the National Fatherhood Initiative worked alongside CareNet's national office and many pregnancy resource centers to help launch and strengthen the important work of reaching fathers. Roland is an alumnus of Princeton University and brings to CareNet almost 2 decades of experience in the business world, more than a decade of experience in the nonprofit world, and an MBA from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. He also has written a monthly column called Pop Culture for the Washington Times, and he is the author of a brand new book coming out January 28th, Bad Dads of the Bible, 8 Mistakes Every Good Dad Can Avoid. Please join me in welcoming Roland Warren. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'll just start off with shameless promotion. Bad Dads of the Bible. Here we go. Yeah, so pick it up. Any place where books can be bought or sold or anything. So, and I've got some flyers out on the table out there as well. So, anyway, so let me do this. I'm gonna start and do something a little different. You've had just some excellent speakers, who've talked about the abortion issue and about data. And I'm going to take a little different tack and challenge you a bit with by posing, I guess, a hypothetical scenario and a question. So here it is. So just imagine that you wake up in the morning and you grab your local paper or you check your favorite internet portal, news portal, and you read this headline. It says, Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Abortion is now illegal in all 50 states. To quote the Duck Dynasty patriarch, happy, 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 right? Right? You bet, right? But here's the thing. Okay, now we average about 1.2 million abortions every year. And although abortion would then be illegal, sex outside of marriage would not be illegal, and unplanned pregnancies would not be illegal. So odds are, instead of 1.2 million abortions, hypothetically, we'd have 1.2 million births. So I had this thought, and it's interesting with what Christian just said, that are we prepared to win? I mean, are we really prepared to win? Now, I'm a black man. Note to file. Clutch your pearls. I'm a black man. Note to file, right? So I have an especially keen interest in the abolitionist movement. And in the pro-life movement, we like to talk about the similarities between the two. The vulnerable people who have been dehumanized and considered less than human, voiceless, needing someone to speak for them, to fight for them, just like the unborn. So a lot of similarities. But in any case, when slavery was outlawed, black folks were free. The abolitionist movement won. But these freed slaves stepped off plantations and too often stepped back onto plantations as sharecroppers who were free in name only. They weren't really better off, were they? I mean, if you think about it, they survived, but they really weren't positioned to thrive. You see, folks in the North or in the South, neither were really prepared to help them. Sure, the abolitionists won the legislative battle, but they weren't really prepared to win. In fact, it took a painful civil rights movement nearly 100 years later, and frankly, we're still dealing with some issues today. So what does this have to do with the pro-life movement? Well, everything. You see, 85% of the women who have abortions are unmarried. You think about it, 85% are unmarried. And one of the main reasons why women choose abortion is because they don't want to be single mothers. And remember, there's 1.2 million abortions. And here's the thing. By and large, we do very little in the pro-life movement to engage men as fathers and loving husbands. We just don't. Too often we focus solely on the woman and the baby and not on the family. focusing on the woman and the baby and not on the family. And the reality is, without the focus on fathers and husbands, when the law is overturned, we're just going to create vast communities of single mother homes, millions of them every single year. Is that really winning? Really? That's winning? Is that winning for children? Prior to joining CareNet, as was mentioned, I was president of National Fatherhood Initiative, and for 12 years, I spent all this time talking about the data. 24 million kids growing up without dads, 1 out of 3 nationally, 2 out of 3 in the African American community, living in father-absent homes. And I talked about the risks that these kids face, more likely to use drugs, academic performance issues, teen pregnancy, incarceration, poverty, all these things. I mean, you get the point. And, it's interesting when you look at the father absence issue, it also impacts mothers too. I mean, these mothers are more likely to have low birth weight babies, less likely to seek prenatal care, more likely to be poor, more likely to face domestic violence. Is that winning? And here's the other thing. The research shows that the best societal glue to connect fathers to their children and the mothers of their children heart to heart is actually marriage. And kids raised by married parents, on average, do better across every social, educational, economic measurement of child well-being. But despite these facts, you really don't hear people talk about marriage in the pro-life movement, do you? Think about it. Are we really prepared to win? Are we? I mean, yeah, I guess if, like the former slaves, we want women facing unplanned pregnancies and the children that result to leave one difficult situation for another difficult situation. And a culture of single motherhood is going to beget a culture of single motherhood. And again, here's the thing. Most women who become single mothers are not single mothers by choice. They're single mothers by chance. By chance. And we've looked at the consequences. So what's the solution? Well, I only have 10 minutes. But CareNet is working on it. And I got to say to you, if you want to engage in terms of the comprehensive approach, I mean, CareNet's a place to do that. First, we can't work in silos. Movement silos, pro-life movement, marriage movement, fatherhood movement, worldview movement. We have to have an integrated, comprehensive, family-centric approach to this issue. We have to assert rhetorically and build solutions and partnerships programmatically that support the notion that this issue is not just about saving a baby, it's about raising a child. Life decisions require life support. So if we're just going to march, that's great. Marching's great. But the real work begins when the marching ends. So if you're focusing all your resources on advocacy and you're not supporting the other side of this, if you're not talking about this in a comprehensive way, in terms of creating families, not just saving babies, are you really prepared to win? I mean, we can't just be pro-life. We have to be pro-abundant life. I mean, a doctor can give a baby life. I mean, Kermit Gosnell, he gave babies life. He took the little ones and put them on a cold steel shelf. That's life. That was an abundant life. Or a doctor can hand a baby to a single mom. I grew up in a single mom home. I understand very, very well how difficult that is for mothers and for children. I know, like my mom, like I said, most women are not single mothers by choice. They're single mothers by chance. But when that happens, is that really God's best? Is that really God's best? Is that really God's best? Or the doctor could hand that child to a father and mother, ideally united in marriage, who will love each other and love that child. That's abundant life. Well, how do we know? Well, that's what happened with Jesus. Think about it. The Bible says that Jesus was going to be born of a virgin. But it doesn't say a married virgin. Think about that. But God does not violate his principles to accomplish his purposes. Jesus came into the world consistent with God's design for family. You see, the pro-life movement, we love to tell the story of Mary, facing an unplanned pregnancy and choosing life. But that's not the end of the story. That's just the end of the beginning of the story, because an angel was sent to Joseph, who was much like any other abortion-minded man. He had hopes and dreams and aspirations, all those kinds of things. It didn't include an unplanned pregnancy. And that angel went to him and said, no, I need you to do 2 things. I need you to be a husband to her and a father to the child growing inside of her. And he said, let it be unto me as you have said. He chose life. And then when Herod wanted to kill Jesus, You can go to Mary, to Joseph, and say, I need you to do two things. I need you to provide, I need you to protect. And he did just that. What's the narrative? That's the pro-life narrative. Husband, father, provide, protect. Sanctity of the family. Sanctity of marriage. Sanctity of life. That's why we should object to abortion. Sanctity of marriage and sanctity of the family. It delinks fatherhood and motherhood in the womb. That's what the law did. I mean, you think about it. Now women become mothers at conception. Men become fathers at birth. And then we spend the rest of the time trying to reconnect what God has joined together and should never have been put asunder. Are we prepared to win? Are we prepared to, if we call this just a women's issue, are we prepared to win? It's not a women's issue, a men's issue. It's both. It's a family issue. You know, Jesus had abundant life, and he became abundant life for us all. So we just can't be pro-life. We've got to be pro-abundant life if we're going to be on God's side. And we can't be pro-abundant life without engaging fathers and husbands and supporting the formation of healthy marriages and building strong families. Then, and only then, are we prepared to win. Thank you very much.